in Chapter 7 are a lot of math notes that you are expected to read. And so this problem here, once again, the homeworks are called review and preview. And so if you look at this problem, this is a lot of previewing of stuff that we're going to see more in Chapter 8. But they're expecting you to kind of go through these notes and kind of help work your way through this. So first off, when the coach of the girls basketball team weighed each player, their weights in pounds were, and it gives you the numbers there, it says make a stem and leaf plot of the team's players. Now when you have a lot of data, one of the first things it's helpful to do is to arrange it from least to greatest. So kind of scan the data and I see that my first number is 106, kind of scanning around, I see a 112, any other ones, hundreds and tens, yeah, 115, and then I'm starting to get in the 120s, so I have a 120, I have another 120, 122, 126, and then I'm getting into the 130s, 133, 142, 147. And so you can see that when I've done it, I've crossed everything out. So that's kind of a really helpful strategy in terms of keeping your work organized. When you're doing a stem and leaf plot, what that is you're going to kind of create a line, and the left side are your stems, and the right side are your leaves. And so what they mean by that is, like, if you're looking at it, you have like 106, 111, 12. And so this first part is going to be your stems. So I have things that are in the hundreds, I have things that are in the 110s, I have things that are in the 120s, I have things that are in the 130s, and I have things that are in the 140s. So these are my stems, and my leaves are the last bit, so 106. So the way that I read this is 106. This is 112. The next number, and I don't have to put commas here, so the next number when I just put a 5 means I'd read this 11, 112, 115. And then I have 120. I have another 120. I have a 122, and I have a 126. And then I have a 130, a 133, and then my next stem is in the 1/4s. So I have 142, and I have 147. And when you make a stem and leaf plot, it's also good to write a key so that you can know so people know how to interpret this. So it's going to kind of look just like one of the numbers. So I'm going to just take the first number in my set, and I'm going to write 10, 6, and I'm going to say this means 106, because another way of interpreting this could have been 10.6. So this would be another way how this could be interpreted. So we want to distinguish that this means 106 versus 10.6. Now, what's great about a stem and leaf plot is it actually looks like a bar graph. So if you look at it this way, okay, or in this case it's actually going to be a histogram, you can kind of see the shape here. And if we looked at the shape, it's pretty much got a single peak. So in terms of shapes of graphs, this would be a single peak. And this is some of the vocabulary in the math notes. And it's fairly evenly distributed, okay? And we don't see any outliers. There aren't any people that are really, really light in weight, or any people that are much heavier in weight than the bulk of the kids on the team. Now, a histogram is what they're asking for next. So let's talk about what is a histogram. So a lot of people don't make a lot of don't distinguish between these two, which is a histogram and a bar graph. Okay, but these are not the same thing. So first off, a bar graph is if you're doing something and they have distinct categories. So for example, I was looking at the number of dogs and the number of cats. Maybe this is pets that people have, and maybe some people have some hamsters, okay? So these are distinct categories. So a bar graph deals with categories. And really, the dogs are a separate category from cats, which are a separate category for hamsters. And so those bars don't touch. And it really doesn't even matter if I put cats first or hamsters first. So, you know, those categories can be in any order, and they're not touching, okay? So they're distinct. A histogram is really more about a scale, and you see more of a continuum here. So when you're doing a histogram, let's see, do I want to start creating, I do want to create, I'm going to start creating a histogram here. Oopsie daisy, sorry about that. So on this, I'm looking for more for, and this histograms are usually deal with weights or times when there's a range. So this was weight of kids, and they were in pounds, and this would be frequency, or how many times it happens, the number of kids. And so we have some kind of like groupings. So we have a bunch of kids. We're not really in this case, but we have kids that are between 100 and 110 pounds. And then we have kids that are between like 110 and 120 pounds, and 120 and 130 pounds, and 140 and 150 pounds. So we've got these kind of ranges of kids. And this is how many times it happens, or how many kids. So between 100, I'm going to write it over here. So between like 100 and 109.9 pounds or whatever, or basically 109 pounds and 15 ounces, we've got one kid, okay, who's 106 pounds. So they're in this range. So we would represent this as there's one kid somewhere in this part. And then starting at 110, going up to 119.99 or 119 and 15 ounces and whatever. So in this range of 110, we've got a kid who's 112, 115. So we have two kids, and you should be using a ruler for all this, but I'm just doing it for time's sake, keeping it short. Okay, and then the next range, I go from starting at 120, going up to 129, So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 kids. I've got 120, 120, 122, 126. So I've got 4 kids that are in this range. So this is what a histogram is. So a histogram, you can see that it's a range. So there's a range between here and here. And so these bars actually touch, because there could actually be kids right here at 100, and we have one. We have a bunch of kids that are at 112, but we're counting them here in this range of 120 to 129. Okay, once again, I'm not finishing this, but it gives you a sense of how to create a histogram. Now, other questions that this problem was asking you was about, like, what number, where's the median kid? And so once again, when you're looking for the median, I use like just a finger cover-up method where I just take my fingers and go from the opposite outsides all the way into the center. And I can see this is my median, which is half the kids are above and half the kids are below. And if you wanted to find the average, once again, average also called mean, you would add all those numbers up and divide by the number of kids in that set. So that's just kind of a quick kind of preview and also review of some of the stuff for Chapter 7 and some of the upcoming chapters in Chapter 8. So good luck with that.